the Mashiach is going to be called Shiloh, because his Rebbe's name was Shiloh, and there's a pasuk also, Ad Ki Yavo Shiloh, and one says no, his Mashiach is going to be called Yinun, because his Rebbe's name was Yinun, and he quotes another pasuk, Sosa Mashiach, and then another Talmud says no, Mashiach is going to be called Chanina, because his Rebbe's name was Chanina. All right, it's a Gemara. It's a fascinating Gemara. What does that mean? Each one saying no, his name is going to be in the name their Rebbe. Before I get to the Pshat, the Gra says something incredible. The Talmud just says 4 Talmidim, 4 names. I'm going to put them in different order now. All right? One said his name is Menachem. One says his name is going to be Shiloh. One says his name is going to be Yinun. And one says his name is going to be Chanina. Mashiach. Isn't that incredible? That the 4 names, the first letter for each word is Mashiach. Unbelievable. All right? Okay. But what does this Gemara mean? Because everyone expects Mashiach to be a Muslim, to be a complete person. Somebody who's able to have every positive midah he's going to have. Each person knows a certain path in Torah based on their Rebbe. Each Rebbe teaches his Talmidim a certain path. And each Talmud considers his Rebbe to be a Muslim. Each one looks up to their Rebbe as he's a perfection. He's the paradigm of that path. So therefore, consequently, each one is going to see in Mashiach their path that they recognize from their Rebbe. So that's what it means. Each one's going to give the name of their Rebbe. Because they know their Rebbe is the paradigm of that path of Torah. Each Rebbe teaches a different path, but each one is going to see that path of Mashiach. That be so far? So it's very simple. We ask the question, how's Mashiach going to be accepted by everybody? The Tzionim will say he's not wearing a kippur sagah. The Hasidim will say he's not wearing a shtreimel. This one saying he's not doing it. How's it going to happen? Exactly like this Gemara. Each sect, each group is going to see in Mashiach what they're familiar with. The midah and the hanhaga and the derech, the path that their Rebbe taught them. They're going to see Mashiach. So yes, Mashiach will be that person they're going to relate to because they're going to see that in him because he's a Muslim. There's a story. And that's what it means. Esther was Matzachain Bein Koreh, because why? Because everyone saw in Esther from their nationality. Just like La'as Lavoi, everyone's going to see in Mashiach what they learned from their Rebbe as well. There's an incredible story. I forget who it was a gadol. A king came over this gadol and said, is it true? He heard that when Mashiach comes, that every king is going to come in front of Mashiach and lay down his crown in front of Mashiach. And the gadol said, yes, that's true. So this king said, and what happens if I don't? So God looked at him and said, then he's not Mashiach. All right? Means Mashiach, by definition, is going to be someone that everyone's going to recognize. And in a certain sense, I can say about Purim the same thing. If we can't recognize in every fellow Jew the Torah that he possesses and the path he possesses, then it's not Purim either. Right? Because Purim is that time when we feel a sense of Achdus, and the Achdus is because we recognize in each other that unifying force of Torah that we all have. Like Esther was able to lech knais kol haYehudim, the same way she was able to gather everybody together as well. So that really fits into the idea of the times of Mashiach. Well, everyone will see in the Mashiach the path that they're familiar with, that they were taught by their Rebbe or their...
So it's our individual responsibility to have that attitude, help to bring Mashiach today, not have to wait.
Well, right. So So the question is how you bring Mashiach. So the standard understanding is that by the mitzvahs that we do, we're bringing Mashiach. There was a tkufa, there was a phase in Chassidus that's really shrouded in mystery, where it seems a number of great rebbes got together, and they decided they're going to force Mashiach's hand. They're going to make him come, and they had a plan to make him come. I think the Chayzel Blin was involved in this also, and he actually had an untimely death. I think he fell out of a window. Actually, suppose he was pushed by some force. What it seems is that there were a number of people that Gedalim had tried to bring Mashiach before its time, and they met a bad fate at the end. So it seems that our job is not to push Mashiach before its time, but demand Mashiach comes, only in the sense that by our sheer force of mitzvahs. I'll just share with you another story. Maybe they'll kind of put it together. The word that used often is tikkun olam. Everyone used the word tikkun olam to mean everything to the exclusion of nothing, right? I always say, save the whale, tikkun olam. Save Coke Classic, tikkun olam. Say, you name it, everything's tikkun olam. Everything. It's gotten. Someone was told me there were 2 Americans on a bus in Israel, and they were talking to each other, and they were talking about, and one of them was talking to the bus driver, and he was trying to explain, he was from the Federation, he was trying to explain that we're here on a project of tikkun olam. So he's trying to speak to the bus driver. He's American, the bus driver is Israeli. So he turns to his friend, this guy, and he says to his friend, "Hey, how do I tell the bus driver Tikkun Olam in Hebrew?" Right? All right? So bottom line is, everyone, it's gotten to be so over-abused. So I want to share with you what I think the right way of approach Tikkun Olam is, and how it's supposed to happen. And I'll hopefully get to answer your question too. This story it's based on a mashal, a parable that my wife's great-great-grandfather, the Rishon Rebbe, once gave, and I'm just kind of modifying it a little bit, but this is the mashal, if I'm not mistaken. He's accredited to, anyway. There was a father comes home from work after a long day. He's exhausted. He's tired. Sits down on a chair, plops down, opens a newspaper, needs a little downtime. Sits down. 3 seconds later, his little kid's running after him, tugging at his sleeve. "Dad, let's play." He loves his child. He just needs a little time, for he just got back from work. Kid's beckoning out. "We want to have to play. He doesn't have to hurt the boy's feeling, but he just needs time. He wants to read this paper, relax a little bit, and finally hits him. The page that he's looking at, there's a map of the world. So he takes the page and rips it little pieces. He says, "Son, here's a puzzle. When you finish this puzzle, when you put the map together, we're going to play." He thought for sure he has at least 2 hours, because the kid was in 5th grade. He doesn't even know half the countries in the world. That's it. He'll not see for that guy. His son's so happy, great. And he's so happy, he's reading the rest of the paper. Kid comes back, 2 minutes later, whole puzzle put together. So the father said, "Who helped you?" He says, "Nobody." He said, "Son, be honest with me, who helped you?" He says, "Nobody." He said, "Listen, I know you're smart. Obviously, you're a chip off the old block, obviously, right? You're a smart guy. But there's no way you did this. Please be honest. Tell me who helped you." The son looks at me and goes, "I'll be honest. Nobody helped me." So I'm asking one last time. He said, "Okay, I'll tell you the truth." He said, "Nobody helped me." He said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you know that page that you ripped up in little pieces? The other side of the page was a picture of a person. I just put the person together, and the world came together by itself." That's Tikkun Olam. We have to put ourselves together. The mitzvahs that we do, and we put ourselves together. Through that process, Hashem is choreographing all those different bricks that we're putting together by ourselves to build the final Tikkun Olam. You follow? So that's really what we need to do. So we have to, focus on ourselves, on our responsibility. Of course, at the same time, that means you care about your fellow Jew, and if you can bring them close to Yiddishkeit, 100%. That's part of the process as well. All right?
Good, very good.
Yeah?
We bring Mashiach into our own lives. We say we can only save ourselves. If we can do that,
And by doing that, we're contributing.
that's pretty
Right.
darn good.
Right,
So
right.
we can't worry about everybody else in the world.
We are actually, this is called Ikvus of the Mashiach. This is called the Tekufa that we're in now, the phase or the era is called Ikvus of Mashiach, which they translate very loosely to mean the footsteps of Messiah. Like you can hear him coming. But really, Ikvasa means heel. Again, implying that's the heel like the bottom, so to speak. It's almost time. But what's Al Pi Kabbalah, what's really going on is in a very Adam Arishon, also known as Adam HaKadmon, before he sinned, was the perfect human being, and we're trying to resurrect that image through our mitzvahs to create him in a spiritual sense. And actually, the question that's always asked is that if the great Avos and the great people that preceded us couldn't bring Mashiach, how can we do so? And the answer is very simple. Because we're not required to bring the whole Mashiach. They already built the head, and they built the body, and they built the heart. They are creating Mashiach. We are just up to the heels. Ikvus Mashiach means we're at the very bottom of creation of Adam, where the finishing touches, that's the heel, so to speak. That's the Ikvus of the Mashiach. And it's our role to complete the picture. But a good chunk of it, the heavy lifting was done before us. You follow? But it's certainly our role to do the mitzvah that way.
With the Mishkan, the description of the Mishkan is from top to bottom.
Yes.
So, unlike a tree that is root feeds it, we
Yes.
get fed from the above.
Correct.
So that's why the Torah comes from
Very good.
top to
It's
bottom.
we are considered to be an inverted tree. Take care. It's an inverted tree. It's an inverted tree. Absolutely. We Adam Eitzasad, that means we're inverted from top down. That's correct. In fact, that's why on our tefillin, so we have a shin on tefillin sharosh, right? You have now. What does a shin look like? A shin actually looks like roots, right? And you have a shin on one side of the box, you have a shin on the other side of the box, and you put it on your head, rosh, or called resh. Shin, resh, shin spells shoresh, Root. Because you're doing is you're rooting yourself into Shemayim. So it's the roots, the tefillin, you're plugging yourself into Shemayim. That's what's going on. You're right, from top down. Exactly right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the parsha. Maybe we'll try to do a little more Purim tonight. Maybe we'll save it for another time. Okay. The Parsha Pikudei is the conclusion of Parsha Shmos. Now, I don't know if we talked about this. Did we meet last week? I don't know if we went last week.
No.
So anyway, okay. So the Ramban addresses a very important question in his Hakdam, his introduction to Sefer Shmos. And he asks a very simple kasha. He says, every Sefer of the 5 books of Moshe deals with a certain theme. Bereshis, the formation of Klal Yisrael, the roots of Klal Yisrael, the Avos, the Imais, the Shvatim. You're building the roots of Klal Yisrael. Shmos is exile and redemption. And right, in English it's called Exodus, right? It's exile and redemption. Vayikra, it deals with Karbonis. Bamidbar is the Jews, the story of the Jews in the desert. Dvarim is Moshe Rabbeinu's Chazar, his review of what they did right, they did wrong, and all the mitzvahs, right? Essentially, that's the case. He says Shmos doesn't make sense in the sense that Shmos, if the theme of Shmos is exile redemption, okay, they go out of Mitzrayim, exile. They get out of Mitzrayim, redemption. Okay, that's not the end. The grand finale is the Kriyas Yamsuf. Fine, I get that. You will say the giving of the Torah is the final act where the curtain should be drawn. Great, but he says why are 4 of the last parshas, Tetzava, Truma, Tetzava, Vayakil, Pikudei, 4 parshas dedicated to the building of the Mishkan? What does that have to do with Gullus and Gula? Maybe anything more with the Karbonis and Vayikra. Why is the building of the Mishkan 4 parshas out of 11, whatever it says a big chunk are dedicated to the building of the Mishkan? What does that have to do with the theme of Gullus and Gula? That's Ramban's kasha. So I'm going to answer based on what he said, but I'm going to say it a little differently and maybe embellish a little more. In Shemona Esrei, we one of the brachas, or the requests we ask Hashem is Re'eina v'yaneinu v'riva reveinu. We ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to see our affliction, to help us, redeem us. Baruch Ata Hashem Goyel Yisrael. You are the redeemer of the Jewish people. So when you hear the word redeeming, you think, Hashem redeems the Jewish people from exile into redemption. But that can't be what that bracha is all about. Because later on in the Shemona Esrei we have Hashiva Shavteina Kavishayna, restore us with the justice system. There'll be justice in the world, and Avilushlayim Ircha Barachim Tashuv, which is all about restoring Yerushalayim to its proper glory, and as Semach David, return to the Davidic dynasty. Those are all requests for the time of Gula. Those are brachas of Gula. The Hashayftim, Yerushalayim, Malchus David. That's Gula. So what we asked for earlier can't be the same thing. What did we ask for earlier? Baruch Hashem Goyel Yisrael can't be about Gula. Those are the last requests are all about. So we really need to readjust our definition of Gullus and Gula. For us, Gula is in Eretz Yisrael. Gullus is stuck in there, and Chutz La'aretz, that's Gullus. True, but it's much deeper than that. Gullus doesn't just mean that you're stuck outside Eretz Yisrael, literally, but it means you're stuck. What it means is when you have kochos, abilities, that for some reason you can't access, when you feel stifled, when you feel that you can't bring out who you are, that's Gullus, that's exile. Exile doesn't just mean when the nation of Klal Yisrael is in exile. And by the way, that's also true. When Klal Yisrael is in exile, that means they also can't express themselves fully in who they are. That's what exile means. Exile means your kochos are in exile, whether on a national level or on a micro level. So, and Geula is when you're able to fully express who you are. So the blessing or the request, Re'eina v'yaneinu, is on a personal level. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I feel afflicted. I feel stifled. I know I'm not really able to dig in and pull out who I really am. I want you to redeem me. That's liberation. Liberation is the ability to totally express who you are. That's Geula. That's what Geula really is. That's why on Shabbos, right, we say, the Kiddush, Zeichel Yitzias Mitzrayim. What does Shabbos got to do with Yitzias Mitzrayim? Terry says, no. Shabbos is a liberating experience. Shabbos, I'm able to unshackle. I'm able to let go of all those things that hold me down, and I feel liberated on Shabbos. Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's what it is. It's a feeling of liberation when I'm able to, I fully realize who I am. That's what liberation is.
Right, Vonyenu, to me, it's like I'm frustrated.
Right?
I'm frustrated.
Exactly.
I don't know what to do.
Exactly. And the
Stuck.
Exactly.
Like you said, you're
exactly.
stuck.
I'm frustrated
Personally.
and stuck. Exactly. I'm frustrated and stuck, and that's Gullus. Because who I am on the inside really can't come out. So he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help. Now, obviously, it's not just up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a story, but Foot was a great Rosh Yeshiva, brilliant man. He was a Rosh Yeshiva, my yeshiva actually. The story goes that he once called somebody into his room, and he said to him, the Rosh Yeshiva said to him, I need your help. You need my help? Okay, so I need you to promise you're going to help me. Sure, but I don't know what you're talking about. So just promise you're going to help me. Fine, give me your word, fine. He said, okay, this is what I need you to do. He said, there's a student in the yeshiva that I can't unlock what's holding him back. There's something there, he's just not able to let go and become the person he can become. I think you're going to be able to help him. I need you to help him. Tell me you're going to help him. He says, I don't know who he is, I can't help him. He says, just tell me right now, make him help him. Fine, he said, fine. He says, okay, now tell me who he is. He says, I'm talking to him right now. All right? All right. So certainly, we have our responsibility to do. We can't play the victim. We have to be able to understand and try to unearth what's holding us back. But sometimes it requires, not so. We always need satisfaction. We always need help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. And that's Hashem. I feel afflicted. I feel stuck. I feel frustrated. And by the way, it's not just a spiritual thing. It's mostly true spiritually. That's what we're talking about. But sometimes when a person in a certain career, and they feel like, this is not me, right? You're like, you feel like you feel stifled. You feel stuck. I'm not able to really express my potential. That's also, it's not just spiritually. It's part of the same package. But sometimes you feel like, I'm going through the motions here. I'm doing this, but like, this is not me. And you may not even realize on a conscious level. So subconsciously, you're depressed, you're frustrated, but you realize what's going on is the real you is stuck and not coming out. All right? Right?
It's an appeal to a source to help you get out of your being in a funnel of confusion and
locked in.
To break out.
You're locked in.
You're stuck. It's like your own personal
You're locked in.
inhibitions.
And sometimes Gemara says, Ein chavish matir atzmai also. Gemara says, the guy in prison can't get himself out. He needs someone on the outside, someone to let you out. So we need HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes we can't see ourselves, how to free ourselves. We need HaKadosh Baruch Hu, somebody else to help us. Okay. So anyway, that's Golus and Geula. If that's the case, now we answer the Ramban's question. The Ramban's question is, what does the building of the Mishkan have to do with Geula? The answer is, very much to do with Geula. If Geula is now defined as when you're able to fully express who you are, the Mishkan was that place where the Jews were able to fully express their connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, that's part of Geula. Mishkan is Geula. When you're able to totally release yourself and totally connect to Hashem and totally feel connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's Geula. That's why it's in Geula. Okay.
That begs the question of, they do sacrifices there. How does that help you? I don't get that.
Okay, so that maybe we'll leave for Vayikra for next week's parsha. We'll talk about whatever we'll get into it. But the Mishkan was a place of Hashras HaShechina. Yes, there was sacrifice. That was a means to an end. The Mishkan really was a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence rested, right? And we were able to access. It was almost palpable in a sense, and that's when we felt that great connection. The Mishkan, we feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. All right? Okay. It's not just the Karbanos.
Sacrifices or personal sacrifices we do to connect to Hashem.
Right. They triggered. The Karbanos simply they triggered that release. That was just a means. All right? Okay. Good question. All right. While we're on the topic of the Mishkan, I want to mention two more things. One is that Chazal tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu tried many times to lift the Mishkan and it kept collapsing. In fact, it's a total of 7 times. The 7th time, he was successful. Right? It says, the Parashat says, B'yoyim hukama Mishkan. On the day that the Mishkan was, hukam means, was able to, he doesn't say B'yom, that Heikem Mishkan, where he lifted up. Heikem would be the proactive way of saying, Moshe Rabbeinu lifted up the Mishkan. Hukam means it got stood up. What do you mean it got stood up? It means it almost happened for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It didn't happen for Moshe, it happened by itself. Hukam. 7 times. Why the number 7? So some say very simple. Did I get this right? The Mishkan, because we had the Mishkan, that it was 4 times the history of Klai, so the 4 Mishkans, 2 Batei Mikdash, and the 3rd Beis Hamikdash is the one that's going to last forever. So the other 6 collapsed means they never had permanence. The final one, which represents Bayis Shlishi, that one remains forever. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is like this. 7 or 8. Okay, I have to look that up. Okay, let's go back there. So, what is the significance of the Mishkan standing by itself. What does that really mean? There's something there to it I want to talk about. When the Gemara discusses, I think it's on Hedron, the Gemara discusses the phases of the creation of Adam Arisha. First step, it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, he collected the earth from all over the world, which means man is a composite of all over the world. And that's why today man has this desire to reach to everywhere, because he feels that that's really that everything belongs to him, right? So that's the first hour. Then it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu formed him. He gave him shape. It's important to have a shape, right? That defines who you are, right? Definition defines who you are. And then it goes through various stages. And it says later on, the 6th hour, Hashem created Chava. And then the 7th hour, it was Cain and Hevel. And the 8th hour, he was thrown out of Gan Eden, right? And it goes through all the different hours, okay? I think it's the 5th hour. It says, so again, he collected the dust, the earth, he formed him. It says, then he blew into him. I think the 5th hour, it says, Moshe Rabbeinu got Omid B'Komas Guf. He got up. He stood erect. Now, every one of those phases are milestones. Collecting the earth from all over is a milestone. Blowing into Shem is a milestone. Cain and Hevel is a milestone. Kicked out of Gan Eden. Why is it a milestone? The 5th hour, again, I don't recall it, the 5th hour, Moshe Rabbeinu, Adam Rishon stood up. Why is that significant? So he stood up. Why is that significant? You take, let's say, a balloon. Yeah, before it's blown up, it sits on the floor, right? You put some helium into it. Begins to rise, right? What's that a muscle for? Everything in the physical world is drawn towards its source. It's drawn towards its source. So a behemoth stands on all 4 legs and it kind of looks downward because it's being pulled by its force, which is the physical world. Right? A behemoth looks down. Gemara actually says that's why if a behemoth falls into a pit, you putter because the behemoth looks down to see where it's going. Man looks up, doesn't slope down. All right, but a behemoth looks down. His whole feet are on the ground, and he's being pulled towards his source. A neshama is pulled towards its source. Ruchnis and Shemayim. That's why we say a flame that represents a neshama always flickers upwards, because it's kind of like being pulled upwards, so to speak, symbolically. So when Hashem blew into Adam, so Adam was first prone, physically lying because he was pulled to the ground. When Hashem put the neshama in, and now the neshama, like the helium in the balloon, lifts the person up, that means that the neshama is elevating the person and lifting the person from his physical pulling downward and pushing him upward. The transplant is a success. What does that mean? We call davening Amidah, right? What do we call it? We stand. Oh, good. So we stand. We also have to sway when we daven. We bend when we daven. We do a bunch of things, right? We're silent when we daven. So why we call it Amidah? It's true we stand, but that's almost incidental to the prayer. But we see, no, that's not. There's something very regal about standing. In fact, every single creation doesn't stand erect. All creations are kind of, like I said earlier, kind of pulled downward. The only creation that stands fully erect is the human being, because it represents the neshama that's elevating and bringing the person up. And that's a very regal position. And when we daven, we're reminding ourselves of that regal position that we have vis-a-vis HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're creating Hashem's image, and that we have that responsibility as well. So Amidah is a very significant description of who Adam is. When Moshe Rabbeinu tried to build the Mishkan, or lift it up rather, and it kept collapsing. And Moshe Rabbeinu, it's impossible. It's going to collapse under its own weight, literally. It can't happen. Hashem said, Moshe, you just keep trying. And then it got up by itself, Hukam Mishkan. So, and that Hukam Mishkan runs parallel to, just like Adam Rishon got up, the Mishkan got up. Because the Chazal tells, he pointed out, that the Mishkan is really a parallel, and it's kind of a blueprint for a person. The Mishkan represents a person. So, just like Adam got up, so the Mishkan got up. So when Adam got up, what was the reason? Because Hashem blew an neshama into him, and that caused him to rise. What was the power? What was the vayipach ba'apav? What was that power that caused the Mishkan to rise? So the farmers say, determination. Determination was vipapa, meaning a person could look at himself and say, I have physical limitations. I just can't do this. I know who I am. Either my personality doesn't allow for this, my physical constraints don't allow for this, or where I'm living now doesn't allow. I'm stuck. Again, I'm stuck, meaning I'm fenced in. I know my limitations. Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, it looks like your limitations are you can't lift this Mishkan. It's not possible. It's going to collapse in its own way. Hashem says, you just keep trying. That's your job. And if you do that, you'll transcend your physical limitations. The Mishkan will happen by itself. The Mishkan will happen by itself. The Vayipach Ba'apava, the Mishkan, was the determination of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the lesson for us is that if we want to get just like the body really rests on the ground, what caused the body to lift up? To transcend its physical limitation. Because the physically limiting world pulls you down. How's an Adam stand up? Right? That's the neshama, that's the regalness in the person, but that's his determination, his ratzon, that really pulls him through. So the parallel to the Mishkan is just like the Mishkan stood up by the determination of Moshe Rabbeinu to keep trying and trying and trying. So too we have the ability also to stand and to overcome whatever limitations we have in terms of our physical body and do much greater than that, because we can transcend limitations. We have no right to say, I can't do this. I know myself, these are my limitations. A person could push past his limitations, just like that's what the Mishkan represents. That's what Adam represents, being able to push past those limitations. Okay. The Psukim mentioned also that when the Bnei Yisrael donated to the Mishkan, so it says that they donated dayam, right? And also they gave even more than enough, right? Let me. That was last week that we talked about. We didn't talk about last week, so maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll say that for the end. Okay, one more piece. Moshe Rabbeinu, in Parashat Pikudei, gives a reckoning of every piece of gold, every piece of silver. He says, "Let me tell you where this gold went, where this silver went," right? And he gives a reckoning, and it's an incredible thing because Moshe Rabbeinu said, "I don't want anybody to be choshed. I don't want anybody to suspect that I took anything for myself." We live in the world of politics. Everyone complains about a government should have transparency, right? We want, and every president preaches transparency. I'm going to show you, and as soon as they get into office, all of a sudden everything's shrouded in mystery. I have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. The truth of the matter is that we have a right to demand transparency, and now that the leader has an obligation for transparency. Moshe Rabbeinu, who clearly was a beloved figure. Okay. All right. He was not only a beloved figure, he was well respected. Clearly, nobody challenged Moshe's integrity. He had a kairach of a but other than that, a few people, everyone understood Moshe's integrity, and yet Moshe Rabbeinu understood you can't put yourself in a position where people might suspect you. I think that even the Gadol of the Kayin didn't have certain pockets, so people shouldn't be choshed that he pocketed stuff on the way out. You don't do anything to give you to misrepresent or to mislead people. It's an incredible thing that even Moshe Rabbeinu felt this responsibility not to give anyone any inkling of suspicion. It says in the pasuk, "V'his nekiyim ma'Hashem u'miYisrael." A person has to be innocent in the eyes of Hashem. You got to do the right thing, but it's not enough. It's not enough to do what's right in front of Hashem. You have to say, how does this play out when people see me? No, you can't say, listen, I don't care what people think when I do this. I know it's the right thing. That's not enough. You still need to be concerned, how does it look? Because if you put yourself in a position where people suspect what you're doing is wrong, that also is a chil Hashem. And especially if you're in a position of authority, especially a rabbinical position. But any Jew really has that responsibility. Not to say, listen, I know I'm doing the right thing. But if it doesn't look right, there's also a problem with that. So v'hisem nekiyim Hashem umi Yisrael, and Moshe Rabbeinu gets up there and makes an accounting for every single thing. And obviously, to the extent that people look up to us, we have more responsibility. They say that I forgot who it was. There was one gadol that when he got letters that would address him and say, l'chaved harav hagoyin, right? So he always folded over, not to read what it says. He wouldn't get a swelled head because all the accolades were like too much. The great genius, great rabbi Chassid, the great, right? So he didn't want to read it. So he always folded up the first top of the letter, so he wouldn't have to see what they wrote about him. So he wouldn't, get a swelled head. I think it was the Chavetz Chaim. I don't know who it was. I'm forgetting now. Just the opposite. He read what they said about him. He said, "Because let me see what they think of me. Because if that's what they think of me, I have to act the way they think of me. Even if I know it's not true. I'm nowhere near as good as they think I am. But if that's their perception, then I have a responsibility to act based on their perception. Otherwise, I'm tainting HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name.
Most people, when they get those kind of accolades, so they don't do that.
No.
They get sucked in by it.
Not only that, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's on their Facebook in 3 seconds, right? It's a headline. It's anyplace else.
But as a parent,
yeah,
when you have children, it's a huge responsibility to be a good role model and to walk the line, be very meticulous about your behavior. And I'm not saying I haven't made plenty of mistakes, but when your children see see a parent that doesn't do the right thing, it's a terrible thing. It's just terrible.
Well, more than that, it's sometimes parents think, okay, now a parent, I'm role modeling, but now I have time off. Like, there's timeouts. Like, there are times that you're on role modeling. There is no such thing. You're always on. Your kids are always watching. And even when you think they're not watching, they're getting it. So there's never a timeout. There's never a time off. If they're in the house with you, you are their role model. And they're watching. Even when you think, okay, now it's time out. It doesn't work that way.
It's the best way if you have children and you want them to grow up as with as much character as possible, that the best motivation for your own behavior is to try to behave in a way that they'll be proud of.
Yes, and if that provides the gut check, for sure, absolutely. Okay. I saw somebody once said that he doesn't wear a watch. Why? Because he wants to decide what time it is. I don't want the watch to tell me what time it is. I'm deciding what time it is. That's it, right? So I took my watch. So we'll decide what time it is. We don't have to worry about what the watch says. Okay. Now, in last week's parsha, we didn't do this, and that's what I'm trying to think if I want to just connect it. It's an important piece that to the Mishkan, maybe we'll mention one thing important as well. So, when the Torah, the Vayakal goes through all the donations to the Mishkan, the Torah tells us that the women...
Leaders.
Sorry?
Sorry. Huh? The leaders gave it at the end. I thought you were
what?
touching on that. The leaders waited until the end.
No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about something else. When the women gave, it says they gave more donations to the men, to the Mishkan of the men, and that merit they were zocha. They merited that the holiday Rosh Chodesh is theirs. Tonight's Rosh Chodesh, or today was Rosh Chodesh. I wanted to mention. So it's considered a woman's holiday because they gave more to the Mishkan than the men. It says. That the women brought more than the men. On top of the men, they brought more. Okay. First of all, why is that the reward, specifically Rosh Chodesh? That's number one. Number two, it's interesting. Chazal say elsewhere something else. Chazal say, no, why the women were rewarded Rosh Chodesh? Because they chose not to give to the Chet Egel. The men gave, the women didn't give. So which one is it? They didn't give to the Egel, or they did give to the Mishkan? Which one is it? So there's a Mishnah in Avis that says like this. Mishnah Avis says, a person is easy to anger and hard to come down, that's a Russia. You get angry very quickly, and it takes you a while to calm down, you're Russia. If you're easy to calm down and hard to anger, that's a tzaddik. Somebody easy to anger, easy to calm down, it's a wash, right? That's a wash. Okay. So Maral asks a simple question. Maral says, usually the word tzaddik in Russia are terms that we use to describe people who make moral choices, good ones and bad ones. If you make good moral choices, you're a tzaddik. If you make bad moral choices, you're Russia. But these are personality traits. You don't say, if somebody is, he's very quick with funny lines, he's a tzaddik. That's a personality trait, right? Somebody's quick to anger is a personality trait. That's not a tzaddik or Russia. Moral choices I get, that's tzaddik in Russia. But describe a personality trait. Somebody is, he's a little slower moving. That's not a tzaddik Russia. That's his temperament. So Maral has a fascinating idea. Maral says it's not true. Maral says that by nature, if a person is easy to anger, he's also easy to calm down. It's the same personality. If you just react very quickly to things. But somebody react quickly, you get angry quickly, and it blows over very quickly. If you're the kind of guy that everything slows and simmers, if you're the kind of guy that, just takes a while for things to register or to really make a difference, so you're slow to anger, but you also process things slowly and you're slow to calm down. So if a person is easy to anger and slow to calm down, he is making a choice. Because really, if he's easy to anger, he should be easy to calm down. If he's hard to calm down, then what he's doing is he's saying, despite my nature, which is allowing me to calm down easily, I'm choosing not to calm down. That's why he's a Russia. And the person who is easy to calm down and hard to anger, he should be easy to anger. If he's hard to anger, it's because he's choosing not to be angry, because it's going against his nature. And that's why he's a tzaddik. Because when you go against your nature, that's a ma'aseh tzidkis. It's called maver al midosav. To rise above your natural nature is, we mentioned this before with Lot. Just an example, we mentioned that why was Lot saved from stone? So if I would look at the Chumash and say, oh, because look what he did. He put his life out on line to save these two malachim, these people who guest Kim's house. He said, you're not getting into my house. You're not taking my guests. I don't care if you threaten me. Right? Terrific. That's not why he was saved. He was saved because Avram went around with Sarah. And Avram would say to Sarah, about Sarah, she's my wife. He knew the truth, and he didn't tell the truth. He didn't say, Avram was really her husband. And then Avram would have killed. That's why he was saved from stone. So everyone asked the question, what? Lot was saved because he didn't throw his Uncle Abe under the bus? I mean, that's a big chiddush. That's huge. Oh, Lot, you know why you're saved from stone? Because you didn't throw your uncle under the bus. Doesn't make sense. Save him because look what he did, this incredible act. When he stood out in front of the house, he said, I'm not letting you touch my guests. Teretz is, one required going against his nature and one didn't. He learned from Avram to do acts of kindness. So for him to get out there and do acts of kindness did not display anything where he had to overcome a natural tendency. But Lot, what do we know about Lot? He loved money. Nothing more than anything in the world, he loved money. If you would have said that Avram was really a Sarah's husband, and they would have killed Avram, who would have inherited all Avram's money? Lot. He was the only inheritor. So for him to overcome that natural desire for money, that was huge for him. Not for you and me, but for him. He was Ma'avar Midaisav. That's why we saved. Let's go to the women now. If the women didn't give to the golden calf, well, that's why they merited being the mitzvah of Chodesh. No. What does it prove anything? Maybe they're just stingy. They don't want to give their jewelry up. What's the proof that they didn't give the gold to the Egel that they're really righteous people? No, they're not giving up their jewelry. They love their jewelry too much.
I thought they did give up.
They didn't.
They didn't.
They did not. All right, not for the Egel.
Not for the eagle.
Not for the Egel.
No.
So 1 second. So it doesn't really prove anything. But 1 second. If you're telling me that they're really naturally stingy, then how come they gave so much to the Mishkan? So if they were naturally stingy, they overcame that natural desire. Or the opposite. Let's go to the Mishkan by itself. They gave so much money to the Mishkan. Doesn't prove that they're righteous people. It just shows that they're loose with their money. They spend money in the Mishkan, they spend money on shopping, they spend money on their horses, they spend money, whatever, you name it. They're free and loose with their money. It doesn't necessarily prove that they're bali stuck and they're making a moral choice. Maybe they're okay with the money. It's not. But 1 second, you put them both together, now this composite shows they're great. Either they're naturally stingy by the Egel and they overcame them by giving the Mishkan, or they naturally give the money away to everything and they held back from the Egel. Either way, whichever way it starts, they're being Mavel Midaisav. So it's the combination of both together that demonstrates their greatness. And that's why they got the mitzvah of Chodesh. What's Chodesh? Chodesh means a new month. A new month means a new beginning. A new beginning means that what I was yesterday doesn't mean I'm stuck with today. Mavel Midaisav means, even though he said earlier, this is my nature, I can overcome my nature. I can overcome my natural limitations. We were talking about this earlier. I'm not stuck, right? So you don't have to be stuck, and you don't have to accept your physical limitations. That's Mavel Midaisav. And so the women exhibited that by putting those two stories together. Either they overcome the natural stinginess to give to the Mishkan, or they overcame the natural just giving away money and held back to give to the Egel. But it's the combo of both that demonstrate a great moral choice. And therefore they were given the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh specifically, because Chodesh means a new month. New month means a new beginning. New beginning means that I'm not stuck on yesterday. And that's exactly what they did. I'm not stuck on my nature. I don't have to accept my physical limitations. I can break through. That's what Chodesh represents. That's that breakthrough. So that's the idea behind the thing. Okay, so we completed really the building of the Mishkan. And the importance of the Mishkan as it's really an expression of Geula, and the idea that the Mishkan, when it stood erect, is like a person's always become a skufa, transcending his limitations. It's the regalness of a person that can stand straight, up straight, unlike the animals. That's why it's called Amidah as well. and the idea that a person also has to be the East and the Kiyim Hashem, Yisrael have to be innocent in the eyes of Hashem, and Yisrael as well. Let me just mention, I guess, one last thing about Purim. So we mentioned, the first thing we mentioned was about the idea of Esther and how everyone found favor in her eyes. She found favor in everybody's eyes, and that's like Mashiach. Everyone will see Mashiach, their complete path. One just quick thing about Purim as well, and that is that the Chazal tell us that, I'm sorry, the Megillah says, Hippel Pur Hu Har Gairul. The Pasuk says that Haman threw a lottery, right, to decide what day to annihilate the Jewish people. It says, Hippel Pur Hu Har Gairul. What?
That's why it's Purim.
Purim, okay. Right, but it says Hippel Pur, and then it translates it. Pur is in Persian, and then Goral is in Hebrew. It's interesting. Also, Megillah here decides needs to define or translate the word Pur. Hippel Pur Hu HaGoral. It doesn't say Hu Goral, Hu HaGoral, like the Goral. Well, hey, idea. What does that mean? So, the short version, it's a really longer Rebbe the piece. It's a beautiful piece. But basically, we all know the story of Purim is essentially that you can look at the world and see everything as nature, and see everything that happened through the Purim story was just simply one thing fell into the next. Or you could recognize the divine hand of Hashem guiding everything. A lottery, you could look at lottery and see it as the ultimate expression of chance. Total randomness. Winning a lottery is total random, right? Or just the opposite. It's the most clearest sign of divine intervention, because you couldn't do anything. You did nothing. The very same lottery, people could look at it and see, oh, the total chance, total luck. Or you could see just the opposite. It's total intervention. You can't see anybody else's hand but Hashem in that, because you had nothing to do with it, right? That's why the Pasuk says, Hippil Pur. Haman says, I'm throwing a Pur, because everything is random. And he wanted to break our spirits by saying, you're done. It's all random. You have nothing to be hopeful for. Hippel Pur. But the Pasuk says, no. Who? Ha-Gairul. This is the same Gairul that when Bnei Yisrael used a Gairul, when they also had to choose the lands for the Shvatim, right? They used a Gairul. Now that Gairul was where you have Hashem directing which Shevet got. That wasn't random. When they used the lottery to decide which Shevet got which land, that wasn't, okay, we're doing Eeny, Meeny, Mighty Mo. It wasn't a version of Eeny, Meeny, Mighty Mo. Just the opposite. The Gairul was a way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying, let me tell you who's getting much land. So Hippil Pur, who had Gairul. What Haman thought was a Pur, Megillah's testifying, no, who had Gairul. It's the Gairul, the hey idea. The same thing that you could look at and say it's a Pur, you could look at and say it's a Gairul. And that's really the challenge of Purim. You can look through life and say everything is a Pur, see everything as a Gairul. And that's really the challenge, that every single thing, you can look at it in two different ways. You can see it as total hashgacha or total randomness. Hippil Pur, who are Gairul. That's the message I wanted to leave you with this. If you would shut that off, because I want to mention one last thing, but I don't want to put it on tape, all right? No, only because it's like far out stuff.